I'm glad you've come. I will give you some very interesting information about a mysterious island. This is a place where those who enter do not survive, and those who live on it have no knowledge of the outside world. This is the northern island of Sentinel. Just as the people of the island have known nothing about the rest of the world for thousands of years, we also do not know what is going on inside the island. It is extremely dangerous to approach the island because we are attacked by naked locals when we want to know. For this reason, it was declared a prohibited area by the Indian state. So what is the story of this island? The northern Sentinel Island is the most mysterious and so dangerous island in the world. 60 square kilometers in size, located in the Bay of Bengal and connected to the Indian state. One of the reasons that makes it so special is that the people who live in it have not had any communication with the world outside the island for thousands of years, in the same way that the earthlings outside the island, that is, we also have no idea what is going on inside the island. According to anthropologists' estimates, the people of the island have been living their lives on the island for 60,000 years, unaware of the outside world. I want you to exercise your imagination a little. Imagine a place where the tea of technology does not enter. The inhabitants of the island are no different from prehistoric people. They have no idea what the world is like. What is a car? What is money? They don't know about TV, internet, Netflix. Whatever you can think of. What a great loss that they don't even know about TikTok. There are a lot of interesting things to talk about the North Sentinel people, who are completely isolated from the world. While today's technology can now know about everywhere in the world, such a mysterious island, of course, attracts the attention of the whole world. The northern Sentinel Island, which even scientists cannot enter, is so often covered with forest that it is impossible to see anything despite the drones or planes flying over it. Sentinels live naked. It is not known if they have any idea how the fire was started. You will be amazed when you hear about the creepy events that soon befall those who are trying to communicate with the island, within the possibilities that they are trying to protect the fire that they get from small-scale fires caused by lightning. The population of the island people is unknown. It is estimated that there may be between 15 and 500 people, but the Indian state has banned anyone from getting closer to the perimeter of the island for more than 9 kilometers. Deck. The reason for this was both the life safety of the locals living on the island and the life safety of those approaching the island. One of the most well-known features of Sentinels, about which very little is known, is that they are not friendly to people outside the island at all, and if anyone approaches the island, they immediately go on the defensive and start attacking with arrows. And there are no valid reasons for this, either. First of all, there is a topic that they are not considered to be aware of, which is that the immunities of a tribe that has been isolated from the outside world for thousands of years are quite alien. Unlike us, who have been exposed to all kinds of viruses and have become immune to them over time, Sentinelers, who have been living away from everything and everyone for thousands of years, are not so lucky. The slightest human contact with the island from outside can lead to their extinction. Even a simple flu will not be enough for their immune system, which they have experienced painfully. So what happened in the year 1880? It all started with that first contact that Portman, a British naval officer, had with the island about 140 years ago today. When Portman was passing near the island, he saw a group of naked men with long hair shooting arrows at them on the beach, so Portman, who started researching the island, gradually turned the island into a dark obsession. Very soon, together with a gang of British and Indian prisoners he took with him, they managed to enter the island and gain the trust of the locals in a friendly manner. Here we see the photo he took with them. After leaving the island, Portman's interesting obsession began to grow gradually, and he made his second visit to the island. The locals were approaching cautiously. In any case, it was very difficult to communicate because they spoke a unique language that no one knew. They spoke their own language. This is what happened during that second visit. Portman and his team forcibly kidnapped 2 adults and 4 children from the locals and quickly fled the island, not for the horror of the abductees. And soon the expected happened, and 2 adult gentlemen, whose bodies were not used to the outside world, soon fell ill and lost their lives, whereupon Portman flew the remaining 4 children to the island of Dinan and disappeared just as they left the 4 children on the beach. After that, it is unknown whether any diseases were transmitted to the people of the island from 4 children. Perhaps a major epidemic broke out on the island within a short period of time, and the majority of the population may have lost their lives. After that date, there was a great hostility among the island people towards the outside world. Now events will become increasingly interesting. In November 2018, a well-known lawyer who has been working on the Sentinel Island for a long time attracted all the attention with a series of Twitter shares. According to the claims he extracted from his research, the British officer who kidnapped him in 1880 had obsessive thoughts about the Portmanel natives. The lawyer who shared some photos and research files. Portman made adult men from the natives wear various jewelry and pose differently for sexually explicit photos. What happened during the kidnapping incident is still a mystery. After about 80 years have passed, some teams have visited the northern island of Inan at different times, giving food to the locals and trying to get closer to the file deck. Only one of these attempts was successful. The locals, who cautiously accepted the gifts given to them, did not exhibit this peaceful attitude again after whatever happened. On top of that, it was forbidden to approach the island. In the year 1981, a large cargo ship with a crew of 50 people ran aground on the shore of the island. In the morning, the crew encountered locals with arrows in their hands on the shore and were rescued unharmed by helicopters that arrived as a result of calls for help, but the cargo ship was left to the residents of Sentinel Island almost like the wreckage of a spaceship that fell on Rosber. It's the first time they've had something like this. Although it is not known exactly what the locals did with the shipwreck, according to estimates, this ship may have been an event that took them from the Stone Age to the Iron Age. It is believed that they began to burn the tips of their arrows from iron by taking advantage of the shipwreck. In 2004, the locals who were flooded in the tsunami that occurred after the big earthquake in the Indian Ocean somehow managed to survive, while those who happened to be on a plane that provided a control flight over the island to find out if the locals were safe, were killed by sentinels on this January 26, 2006, when 2 fishing boats that came to the island illegally to hunt docked on the island. The sentinels who buried the fishermen's bodies in the pits they opened on the beach did not allow them to attack the helicopters that came to rescue the men with arrows, and the incident that made the island famous all over the world was a recent tragedy. 26-year-old American John Allen Cab was a religious and adventurous young man who was obsessed with those living on the northern powerhouse island who had no knowledge of the outside world and wanted there to be no one left on Earth who did not know about the existence of the Creator, the Javanese and the reality of hell. He thought that he should have told the locals who have lived isolated on this island for thousands of years about the prophet Jesus and passed on his own faith, Christianity, to them as well. He considered his northern ancestor, who had not met Christianity, to be the last stronghold of Satan. But he was also aware that this task was not an easy one at all. He decided to make a plan that would last for many years. John, who had read Robinson Crusoe stories as a child, had 2 great passions in life. One is an outdoor adventure, the other is the prophet Jesus. John, who attended high school at a Christian school, first studied the island of North Santi in a missionary database called the Joshua Project when he was in high school, and since then he has made it his mission to pass on the religious information he believes to these people who have no connection with the outside world. The moment he thought it was time, he started to focus completely on this job. After leaving his full-time job at first, he began to educate himself by attending national outdoor leadership courses. He took trainings as an emergency medical technician and tried to keep fit by playing sports. Just to be prepared for what might happen to her between the northern districts, she spent 3 summers in America working as a decoy emergency nurse, living alone in a small cabin. He then attended a training camp called. This training camp had a specially prepared fake village and fake locals living in it. During training, the locals carry out fake attacks with spears. When October turned 2018, John had himself shot 13 separate vaccines, then flew from America to a city closest to the North Island and settled there. He wrote in his diary that he took these vaccines into his body because he thought about the Sentinel natives. For some reason, he felt an indescribable love for these isolated places. In order not to carry any diseases to the island from the outside, he quarantined himself in his house, where he moved 2 weeks before the day of his visit to the island, and took care not to contact anyone. When that great day came, the date was November 14, but the year is 2018 and it is strictly forbidden to approach even 9 kilometers to the North Island. That's why he had to give up $30,000 that he had saved during his lifetime. He figured it out with a fisherman, and they secretly made a plan to reach the island. When it was night, he and the fisherman to whom he had delivered the money secretly set off for the North Island in silence, and when they approached the shore, the fisherman refused to go any further. After that, John would continue by jumping into a boat. He got on the boat by taking off his clothes so that the locals would not be strangers. He also had to come out naked in front of them. After getting a little closer, soon a few natives came out from among the trees with their faces decked in yellow. John shouted from inside the boat. "My name is John, I love you." Then a boy who joined the locals shot an arrow towards Jonah. John had fallen into the sea at this time. Deck. The locals were trying to confiscate his boat. John, who had to swim about 1.5 miles to the ship at speed, had no intention of giving up. She wrote in her diary that night that she was scared. The following prayer that he added to his diary is remarkable: "If I am killed by the locals, please forgive them, Lord." John, who had spent the night on board, began his new experiment when it was next morning. John, who entered the island for the second time, was never heard from again, and the fisherman who returned was arrested and sent to prison. According to the fisherman, who testified that John was dragged by locals on the island with a rope tied by his feet, John is believed to be dead. This news, on the other hand, caused a big echo nationally. The authorities, who have been trying to reach John's body for some time, decided to close the file, not wanting to interfere further with the attacks of his people. It is not possible to predict exactly whether the power plants are cannibals. Since we know that they buried the bodies of the 2 fishermen they killed earlier on the beach, the idea that they did not eat human flesh outweighs. No one knows what is behind the incredibly frequent trees except the Sentinel locals or perhaps John, who is still alive. Therefore, it is inevitable that crazy theories will be produced about it, of course. Since there is a secret base on North Sentinel Island today, there are countless people who had interesting ideas until yesterday that the missing Malaysian plane actually crashed on Sentinel Island. It occurred to me, what did this mean for someone who had seen a drone for the first time? Who knows? Maybe this is what he sees within the framework of his own imagination and beliefs. They painted them on the rocks found on the island. Or is it just like we once did?